Hi there everybody and welcome back to the channel. So in today's debut episode of Battlefield Reality, we're taking a deep dive into how accurately Battlefield 5 portrays the Tiger 1 tank in terms of weaponry, occupancy, armour and speed, then finally concluding with an overall score out of 5 stars at the end of the video for historical accuracy. This is part of a long-term video series and I'd love to get your input at the end of the video what ranking you would give the Tiger 1 tank in Battlefield 5 for historical accuracy. The idea being that I could then tally the stars to give the Tiger a ranking which we could then compare to other vehicles in Battlefield 5 as we release more episodes. Before we get into it, if you do enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe. We do everything Battlefield on this channel, so if you're a Battlefield fan, this is the place for you. So a brief history then. The Tiger 1 tank was a German heavy tank first deployed in 1942 in Africa and Europe. It was considered a marvel of its time in terms of engineering and destructive capabilities, but at the same time suffered from the flaw of over-engineering and expensive production processes. Weaponry. The Tiger tank was the first German tank that mounted the 88mm KWK gun. This gun was just under 5 meters in length, giving it exceptional long-range capabilities due to the high muzzle velocity and flat trajectory of its shells. To put it into perspective, the Tiger tank was able to hit a target accurately at 1,100 meters, that is roughly the size of your hand luggage allowance on a plane. The 88mm gun was also powerful for its time in comparison to other German tanks, having superior penetration capabilities than other tanks like the Panzer IV, also seen in Battlefield 5, being able not only to hit accurately targets at 1000 meters, but also penetrate armour up to 100mm thick at that range. The tank carried 92 armour piercing and high explosive rounds, while also being equipped with 2 MG34s, both of which had 4,500 rounds each. The Battlefield 5 Tiger 1 stays true to the original, using the 88mm KWK gun, which is known to be extremely accurate in game, far exceeding the muzzle velocity of the Allies' Churchill heavy tank, allowing it to be much more effective at those longer ranges. It also deals more damage per shot than the Churchill, staying true to the high penetration capabilities of the tank seen in World War II. In terms of customization, Battlefield 5 allows you to choose between armour piercing or high explosive rounds, however won't allow you to carry both like the tank did in World War II, most likely due to balancing reasons. The tank in Battlefield 5 when fully manned has 1 more MG34 than the original, 2 for passenger gunners and 1 for the driver himself. The tank in-game also carries less ammo, only 18 shells and 500 machine gun bullets before it needs to resupply. Overall, however, I would say in terms of weaponry, the Tiger tank in Battlefield 5 stays pretty true to the original. Armour. The armour was 100mm thick at the front, about 1.5 times the length of the male hand, which at the time of deployment struck fear into the heart of the Allies as it was impervious to anything in their arsenals at ranges over 100 yards. Counterintuitively though, the armour arguably was the weakest part of the Tiger tanks, not because of its lack of performance but due to the high difficulty in sourcing the high quality materials required. This meant that only 1,558 were ever produced. Compare that to the iconic Sherman tank where 40,000 were manufactured. These low numbers meant that it was hard for the Tiger tanks to ever really reach their full potential, as there simply wasn't enough to have a large impact on the war. The Battlefield 5 Tiger tank does have a high health pool, however not to the extent that no allied tanks can penetrate its armour, which at the end of the day is a good thing. Battlefield 5 did in fact take it to the next level, implementing a mantlet damage multiplier of 0.75, a mantlet being a bulletproof screen on the front of the Tiger's tank turret, which was actually seen on the original tank. One of the major weaknesses of the Tiger 1 tank in World War II were its low numbers, yet arguably the Tiger tank is one of the most, if not the most picked tank in Battlefield 5. It's hard to implement a mechanic to limit this type of tank spawn when you give players the option to choose the vehicle they spawn in rather than having predetermined vehicles seen in Battlefield 4. Overall then, in terms of armour, the Battlefield 5 tank is fairly accurate in translating the tank's thick armour into a high health pool, however does fail to encapsulate the Tiger's biggest armour weakness, that being the expensive materials used to create such armour, thus its low numbers in World War II, with the Tiger tank being very prevalent in Battlefield 5. Occupancy. The Tiger tank needed a crew of 5 people, a commander, gunner, loader, driver and radio operator who was also mounted on one of the MG34 machine guns. The Tiger tank needed an experienced crew to operate the complex machinery, which the Germans simply didn't have near the end of the war, when the tank started to be used in higher frequency. Inside the tanks, the Germans described it as spacious and comfortable, which was ironic as when the Allies tested the tank post the war, they described it as uncomfortable and Spartan. The Tiger tank in-game has an occupancy of 3 people, 2 gunners and a driver, so 2 less than the original version. Interestingly, the Tiger tank in World War II was described as needing an experienced crew, yet I would argue the Tiger tank in Battlefield 5 is one of the lower skill cap vehicles. Its high health pool gives drivers ample opportunity to get out of rough spots, and its high velocity gun means the need to predict bullet drop is also minimal. The meta, as much as I hate it, also involves sitting at longer ranges and sniping targets, putting drivers of the Tiger tank in precarious situations at lower frequencies. Overall then, in terms of occupancy, I would say the Tiger tank is portrayed fairly poorly in game actually, with the wrong number of crew members and it actually being an easy tank to operate for beginners. Speed. The heavy armour meant the Tiger weighed a whopping 54 tons, whereas other tanks of the time like the T-34 only weighed 32 tons. To move this beast of a vehicle, a 700 horsepower engine was used. Although a good engine, it was underpowered for the tank, meaning the Tiger's cruising speed was only 40 km per hour or 25 miles per hour. The bigger problem facing the tanks, however, was due to its high weight, it was prone to being bogged down in mud, and this mud then getting stuck and freezing in between the tracks overnight. In part due to this, the tank was used in much more of a defensive fashion, being placed in strategic positions such as hillsides to snipe oncoming enemy vehicles and infantry clusters. The engine was also used to rotate the tank turret, with a full rotation taking about a minute. The Tiger tank in-game is known for its slow speed and manoeuvrability. As previously mentioned, the tank is also used far more frequently in a defensive and or passive fashion, with it being optimal to sit back and snipe targets. The turret rotational speed, even with the specialization tree skill upgrade, is exceptionally slow, with infantry, if close enough, being able to run circles around the Tiger tank without the turret being able to keep up. So an overall ranking then. I think the Tiger tank stacks up well in terms of weaponry, staying true to how the World War II tank turret performed in terms of high damage and velocity. The way the tank is played in game in that passive fashion also holds up nicely with how the Tiger 1 was deployed in strategic positions in World War II to snipe oncoming vehicles. Where the Battlefield 5 Tiger tank suffers in terms of realism is when it comes to occupancy, with it really being quite a low skill tank compared to other tanks in the game. So having said that, I'm going to give the Tiger tank a solid 4 stars out of 5. So this is the first episode, so nothing to compare it to as of yet. What I'll do is I'll leave it sitting at 4 stars, and if you guys want to let me know your ranking in the comments, then at the beginning of the next episode I'll take an average of everyone's rankings and alter the placement accordingly. If you do want to watch some more Battlefield, on the left I discuss a strong theory pointing towards Battlefield 6 being set in Vietnam. Alternatively, on the right is a playlist containing some more fun Battlefield 5 gameplay. If you do enjoy, be sure to hit that subscribe button, it means a lot as a small channel. Thanks for watching as always, have a great day and peace out.